9 years after Mark proposed, the wedding never happened. One day, I saw him openly showing affection to that woman, the supposed heiress, and I finally let go of any expectations. This time, I didn't get upset or question him loudly. Instead, I calmly took off my engagement ring and threw it in the trash. I booked a flight to leave the country in 2 weeks. As I was about to board, a message from Mark appeared on my phone. It read, "Mildred, why aren't you back yet? Today is our engagement anniversary. Didn't you prepare any gifts for me?" I smiled and replied, "I'm giving you freedom. We're over." Later, after I got hurt, Mark called. "Mildred," he said, "did you make Sarah cry again? Can't you be a little more understanding? Sarah is upset because of you." I didn't argue or explain. I simply hung up. Every hour, Sarah sent me pictures of her and Mark in bed. One message read, "Didn't you say you'd die without Mark? Go ahead and prove it to me." In the last video she sent, I clearly heard Mark's cold voice saying, "She'd be better off dead." I looked down at my bleeding arm and felt dizzy. Hearing Mark's words, something inside me broke. I whispered, "Butler, call an ambulance for me." But from downstairs, my mother's sharp, impatient voice echoed, "Mildred, what are you up to now? You can't go a day without being dramatic, can you? You don't have the slightest grace of a proper lady." Before I passed out, I heard my father sigh heavily. "Just ignore her," he said. "She's faking it again to get attention." When I woke up, the strong smell of antiseptic filled the air. The door swung open, and my father walked in with a stern look. I was so relieved. I tried to speak, but his furious voice stopped me. "You're awake then? Get the hell home. You've humiliated us enough. What was that nonsense about a suicide attempt? People will think we're mistreating you." I managed a weak smile. "It won't happen again." The nurse beside me watched as my father stormed out and whispered, "He doesn't seem like your real dad, more like an enemy. You're so beautiful. Don't waste your tears on people like that." A bitter feeling rose in my chest, but my smile became more genuine. My own parents scolded me for being a disgrace, but a stranger showed me kindness. I chuckled softly. The love and family I had longed for all these years, I didn't need them anymore. When I returned home with bandages on my wrists, the whole family was happily eating dinner. Mark was gently feeding Sarah dessert. They didn't even look up when I came in. To them, what I did was shameful, so naturally they wouldn't mention it. Sarah, however, smiled and waved at me. "Oh, you're back. You look so pale. You should take better care of yourself." Mark frowned and sighed. "Sarah, don't worry about her. She's always been strong. Just focus on taking care of yourself." But when I first came home, after being found, Mark used to worry about me. He would look at my thin body and dull hair with concern. To help me get better, he studied nutrition and even cooked for me every day. Back then, he would say seriously, "Mildred, your health is weak. You need to take good care of yourself." But now he only made nourishing soups for Sarah. I walked upstairs trying to hide my feelings. Behind me, my mother sighed. "If only Sarah were our real daughter. That burden doesn't deserve Mark." Sarah giggled sweetly. "Mom, you're joking again." When I was a child, Mark, who was arranged to marry me since birth, snuck me out to play. But I was kidnapped. To make up for it, his family promised the engagement would always stand. Meanwhile, my parents adopted Sarah to ease their grief over losing me. 9 years ago, when I was finally found, I had become an unwanted presence in the family. The day I was brought home was also my adoptive mother's death anniversary. At her grave, Mark shielded me from the light rain with an umbrella. He handed me a bouquet of flowers and motioned for me to place them before the tombstone. People always said I was with Mark for his money, but only I knew I had remembered that bouquet for 9 years. Yet no matter how beautiful a flower is, it still withers one day, just like my love for Mark, which had slowly been drained away by disappointment. I called Nathan overseas. He was silent for a moment before his voice brightened with excitement. "If the professor hears you're willing to come back, he'll be so happy," I sniffled, my eyes turning red. "Mildred, the principal cellist position has always been saved for you. We all miss you." My home was in this city, yet the people who truly cared about me were across the ocean. If I died, The people who treated me like dust wouldn't shed a single tear. Since there was nothing left for me here, I would go and find a future of my own without hesitation. I booked my flight for 2 weeks later. When I returned to the house I once shared with Mark to pack my things, my phone rang. It was him. For once, he sounded anxious. "Mildred, come to this address right now." I pressed my lips together and said calmly, "I'm busy. I don't have time." There was a pause on the other end. He hadn't expected me to refuse so firmly. After a while, his voice became hoarse. "Come over now. Haven't you always wanted to go to the amusement park? I'll take you." I cut him off. "If I want to go somewhere, I can go by myself." His tone turned angry, irritated by my response. "Sarah's birthday party got canceled last minute. You need to come fill in." I hung up without another word. Looking at my phone's silent call log, I saw over a dozen missed calls, all from Mark. After I was found and brought home, Sarah monopolized my parents' love. Back then, the only one who stayed by my side was Mark. He felt sorry for the confusion and loneliness I faced after being returned to my family. He did everything he could to support me. But sympathy fades and love changes. When I left the country for 4 years, Mark fell in love with Sarah. I could have stayed in a renowned orchestra abroad, but for the illusion of love and family, I chose to come back, only to be mocked as a nobody in the music world. When I first returned, they made me accompany Sarah on a variety show. On camera, she and Mark acted particularly close. The moment I touched Mark's wrist, I was swarmed by online hate for ruining their relationship. I asked Mark why he wouldn't clarify our engagement. His handsome face remained indifferent as he said without hesitation, "Sarah's career is on the rise. We need to maintain her fan base." For Sarah's birthday livestream, Mark paid a fortune for a new cello. On camera, he smiled gently. "Whatever Sarah wants, I'll give it to her, even the stars in the sky." Sarah gazed at him sweetly. "I originally wanted Mildred to come, but she still seems mad at me." I let out a soft laugh. Such a cheap trick, yet the internet ate it up. Last time, she purposely riled up her fans against me. One of them even ambushed me in an underground parking lot with a knife. Luckily, the knife only left a shallow cut on my neck before the security guards rushed in and subdued her. But I was still trembling in fear, crying as I called Mark, asking him to take me to the hospital. On the other end of the line, all I heard were the wet, intimate sounds of lips and tongues entwined. It took a long while before he finally slurred out, "Stop messing around. I'm busy with work." On the screen, Mark gently ruffled Sarah's hair, his eyes filled with tenderness. I curled my lips into a smile, my gaze lingering on the ring on my slender white finger. The way the diamond gleamed under the light was almost blinding. I slid it off my finger, then casually tossed it into the trash without a second thought. On the table, a pile of birthday gifts from Mark over the years sat untouched. From the handcrafted necklace he gave me when I first reunited with my family, to the mass-produced perfumes from the shopping mall, the less he loved me, the less effort he put into his gifts. I had just been too stubborn to admit it. Packing all those once cherished presents into a trash bag, I let out a long, slow breath. That night, when Mark came home, his eyes flickered uneasily as he handed me a bowl of fish maw porridge. "Sarah is your sister. Our publicity stunts won't affect our engagement, will they?" I noticed the deep red mark behind his ear and replied flatly, "Got it." The boy who once ran through half the city on a snowy night, just because I mentioned wanting roasted chestnuts, was long gone. I didn't care whether Mark had acted out of loneliness or fleeting excitement. The moment he chose to betray our relationship, using his care for his sister as an excuse to indulge in the thrill of forbidden love, there was no going back for us. On Mark's birthday, 3 days before my flight, we had planned a private celebration, just the two of us. But when I returned from studying abroad, I discovered that his birthday was still a celebration for two, only now it was him and Sarah. I used to bake him a cake by hand every year, smiling as I watched him eat. That morning, Mark hurriedly buttoned his cuffs as he rushed downstairs. "I won't have time for cake tonight. I have things to—" His voice abruptly cut off when he glanced at the dining table. A single cup of coffee sat on the empty tabletop, making the space feel especially hollow. Noticing his gaze, I simply smiled and nodded. "Go ahead, you're busy." Mark hesitated, then walked over and sat down at. How about I book us a restaurant tonight? Before he could finish, his phone screen lit up. I caught a glimpse of the message, a selfie of Sarah in an apron, standing in the kitchen. I'm cooking today. Mark sucked in a breath, his pupils contracting for a moment. He licked his dry lips. There's a major project at work tonight. Next year, I promise we'll celebrate together. I met his gaze without a word, staring at him until he nervously tugged at his earlobe, a guilty habit of his. I curved my lips into a faint smile. Seeing me smile, Mark visibly relaxed. He patted my back. It settled then. I watched his hurried departure, expressionless, as I took another bite of my sandwich. Who he spent his birthday with no longer mattered to me. That night, I stumbled upon Sarah's private Instagram account. She had tagged me. The photo showed Mark, eyes closed, making a wish with fireworks exploding brilliantly outside the window behind him. The caption read, "This year, next year, and for many years to come together." I let out a soft laugh and gave the post a silent like. Seconds later, my phone was bombarded with messages from Sarah. Sis, the family's fortune is all yours. The only thing that truly belongs to me is Mark. I know you two are engaged, but he loves me now. He hasn't broken things off with you because he doesn't want to hurt you too much. When I didn't reply, her words grew sharper. He used 4 condoms with me today. How long has it been since you two were last intimate? Like it or not, for the past 4 years while you were abroad, the one beneath him was me. What's the point of holding on to a man who doesn't love you? Expressionless, I tossed my phone aside. Perhaps sensing something off about my reaction, Mark surprisingly stayed home the next day. His gaze flickered as he grabbed my wrist. Where's our engagement ring? The bandages over my wound stung as he gripped me, making my voice tremble slightly. I took it off when I showered. Let go of me. Beads of sweat dripped from my forehead. Mark, caught off guard, lifted my sleeve. You're hurt. Why didn't you tell me? I frowned and yanked my arm away. The stitches are coming out today. His eyes darkened as he blinked a few times and pressed his lips together. I'll take you to the hospital. It had been months since I'd last sat in Mark's car. Now, a plush pillow and blanket were neatly placed on the passenger seat. Noticing my hesitation, he casually tossed them into the back. Not long after the car started, his phone rang. The ringtone was a song Sarah had recorded. Mark shot me a quick glance, hesitated for a moment, then picked up the call. A girl's tearful voice came through. Mark, my dress for tonight's banquet got ruined. He immediately soothed her, his voice full of concern. Don't worry, Sarah, I'll bring you a new one right away. I'll also get your usual brand of pantyhose, okay? The car slowed to a stop in a deserted area. Mark turned to look at me, lips parted, but no words came out. I smiled at him, then opened the car door. He seemed surprised by how decisively I got out, but after only a brief hesitation, he drove off, leaving me alone by the roadside. That night, when Mark returned home, I was sitting in the dimly lit living room. He approached me, leaning in as if to rest his head against my shoulder, just like before. Mildred, let's go to the new rose garden tomorrow. Sarah said it's beautiful. The strong scent of women's perfume filled the air. I stepped aside to avoid him. Seeing his momentary confusion, I spoke softly. I'm allergic to roses. An awkward smile tugged at his lips as he picked up the calendar on the coffee table. His gaze landed on a large red circle marking tomorrow's date, our engagement anniversary. Relieved, Mark chuckled. See you tomorrow. Silently in my heart, I responded, Mark, we will never see each other again. The next morning, I quietly left the villa with my luggage. As I boarded my flight, my phone buzzed with a message. Mildred, it's our engagement anniversary day. Didn't you prepare a gift for me? Every year on this day, Mark would wake up to a handmade present from me. This time, I smiled as I typed my reply. I'm giving you freedom. We're over. After sending the text, I turned off my phone. At 30,000 feet in the air, Mark, far away back home, stared at his phone in disbelief. He tried calling me, but all he got was the automated message that my phone was turned off. Without even putting on his slippers, he rushed to my door and knocked anxiously. When I returned from studying abroad, he said his work kept him busy and he didn't want to disturb my sleep, so we slept in separate rooms. Later, I found out the real reason. He didn't want me to interfere with his late-night rendezvous with Sarah. But now, the gentle face that used to answer his knocks was no longer there. Panic-stricken, Mark pushed open the door, only to find the room emptier than ever. The gifts he had given me were stuffed into trash bags. The framed photo of us on the desk was covered in dust, as if no one had touched it in a long time. He walked to the balcony and pushed open the door. "Mildred, stop messing around, come out." But all he got in response was silence. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something glinting near the trash can. With trembling hands, he picked up a ring. His bloodshot eyes reflected his turmoil. As the plane landed, I immediately spotted Nathan waiting at the arrival gate. But beside him stood Owen, holding a bouquet of knitted flowers. I let out a soft chuckle, took off my sunglasses, revealing eyes that were slightly misty. "Welcome back, Mildred. Your mentor heard you were coming back and gifted you the entire vineyard. That old man really throws money around." I laughed and teased, "Well, I am his favorite student after all." Owen, who had been silent, spoke in a low voice. "Now that you're back, don't leave again." Years ago, before I left, he had cried in the snow, saying, "Mildred, if you ever feel unhappy, come back. I'll always be here waiting for you." I smiled and patted his shoulder reassuringly. "I'm not leaving again." The moment I turned my phone back on, a flood of missed calls rushed in, all from the same person. "Mark." I stared at the lagging screen, my smile slightly stiffening. Nathan scoffed. "You wasted 4 years of your life being a background character for that jerk. From a prodigy to nearly being forgotten, you should have never gone back. I have rehearsals, so Owen will take you home. This guy hasn't slept properly for 2 weeks, terrified you'd change your mind about returning." Just as he finished speaking, my phone suddenly rang. The caller ID was someone I hadn't expected. My father. His angry voice came through. "Mildred, you troublemaker, disappearing again and scaring everyone. Early in the morning, Lewis has been going crazy looking for you. Get home immediately, do you hear me? If you don't apologize today, don't bother calling me your father." I blinked, but not a single tear fell at his words. That house was never mine to begin with. "I won't be going back." My father seemed taken aback by my calmness. His tone softened slightly, as if confused. "What do you mean by that?" I met Owen's concerned gaze and gave him a reassuring smile. "Exactly what I said. Hope you and Sarah enjoy your little family of 3. Hanging up, Owen sighed. "What kind of life have you been living over there?" Seeing his troubled expression, I chuckled. I was blinded by what I thought was true love. He shook his head. "So Mark is that guy? The one who used to wait outside your mentor's house till late at night while you practiced? We all thought you two would get married when you went back." I blinked and gave a bright, sarcastic smile. Good thing I didn't. The man who once traveled across the world just to see me didn't think twice about doing intimate things with someone else. "Right then?" Mark called again. I couldn't understand his persistence. "Is there something you need?" On the other end, all I could hear was heavy breathing. After a long silence, just as I was about to hang up, a hoarse, low voice finally came through. "Mildred, where did you go? I'll come pick you up and take you home." I rubbed my temples, impatience flashing in my eyes. "We've broken up, don't you get it? You really think I didn't know about you and Sarah sneaking out after I fell asleep to watch the sunrise with her, getting cozy in the backstage dressing room while I was injured? You still want to fool me with some PR stunt?" Each word stabbed into him like a knife. Mark whispered my name as if making some sort of promise. "Mildred, the only person I'll ever marry is you." In my heart, I added, "But your love and devotion were never mine to begin with." That night, the conversation ended with me blocking his number. His last words, spoken with weary determination, were, "Mildred, I'll make sure you come back to me." As soon as the news broke about Mark and Sarah joining a couple's reality show, my orchestra colleagues started discreetly watching me. Gifts kept appearing in my practice room. Sometimes a piece of candy, sometimes a pair of delicate earrings. Amused, I asked Nathan about it, but he simply handed me a bag of homemade cookies with a sympathetic look. My wife made these. We're all worried about you. The scars on my wrist were still there, glaringly obvious, but inside I felt nothing. Every night, Owen waited for my rehearsals to end, taking me out for a warm meal. Watching him work late on his laptop while waiting for me, I felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. The one truly waiting for me never said much, but his presence was steady and reassuring. Mark's way of forcing me back was flaunting his relationship with Sarah on reality TV. He didn't care whether it hurt me, but the people who genuinely cared about me quietly looked out for me from the shadows. Then Sarah posted a picture on her private account of a man's half-bare back. As usual, she tagged me. Her caption read, "He's mine. No one can take him away." I wiped down my cello, completely indifferent, and logged out of my account. Desperate over my departure, yet still getting into bed with another woman. Mark, is this what you call love? That night, another call came from home. The voice that always spoke so gently to Sarah was now sharp and piercing when directed at me. Ungrateful brat, where the hell have you been running around? You really think this family needs you? We should have never brought you back. You've been nothing but trouble. You better never come back. Sarah is a much better match for Mark than you. I used to cry over my parents' favoritism towards Sarah. Mark once told me that after I was taken away as a child, my mother cried every day, and my father put work on hold to search for me. But in all those years, I was missing. Every bit of their love and longing had been redirected to Sarah. When I was first brought back home, I stood awkwardly in the lavishly decorated living room. My socks had holes in them. Sarah, dressed in a princess gown, ran into my mother's arms, sobbing pitifully. Now that you have your real daughter, you won't abandon me, will you? My parents were too busy comforting the girl in their arms to spare me even a glance. Only Mark held my hand tightly and whispered, "Don't be scared, I'm here." The promises made in our youth never hold. My parents remained as indifferent and dismissive toward me as ever. The boy who once vowed to stand behind me was no longer my support. Seeing me stay silent, my father picked up his phone and sternly warned me, "Your mother and I know about their reality show. Men play along when they're outside. If you can't even accept that, how can you talk about marriage?" "Mildred, you're being unreasonable. We won't let you do as you please forever. Since you don't want to marry Mark, this works out perfectly. Now he and Sarah can be together." Even now, they still believed I had left out of spite, waiting for Mark to come and beg me to return. Yet the man who once promised to give me a home was secretly sharing intimate moments with my adoptive sister. My family, those closest to me, had never stood by my side. "Mildred, I got you the dessert you mentioned before. Come and try it." I looked up to see Owen, his warm expression softening his handsome features. That dessert shop was one I had only casually mentioned once, but the wait time was at least 2 hours. Seeing the sweat dampening Owen's temples, I couldn't help but smile. As the orchestra's performance drew near, I spent more and more time practicing in the rehearsal room. I hadn't checked a single update from back home. On the day of the performance, I stood in the first chair position as the orchestra's lead cellist. As I slowly drew my bow across the strings, I saw my teacher in the audience, smiling with pride and Owen beaming as he gave me a thumbs up. Applause filled my ears, genuine and heartfelt as we took our bows. My teacher took my hand and said, "After 4 years, you've returned to the stage, still the astonishingly talented cellist they remember." Owen pulled out a necklace and fastened it around my neck. The pendant was a diamond-crafted cello. "Mildred, you'll always shine the brightest in my heart." After the performance, some listeners, moved by my music, started searching for my past performances. But the last recorded performance they found of me was from 4 years ago. Back then, I had stood confidently at the center of a grand theater stage playing my own composition. Yet in the 4 years after returning home, I had been nothing more than Sarah's background prop, dim and unnoticed. Worse yet, fans had mocked me. Where did they find this second-rate cellist? What could someone this young possibly know about music? Isn't she just some newbie from Sarah's agency trying to ride the hype? But now, those jeers and insults were fading. Cheers and applause that belonged to me had finally returned. Headlines spread back home. The genius cellist returns to the stage. The lead cellist of the symphony orchestra finally reappears. Outside the orchestra building, I saw someone unexpected. Mark had been waiting for who knows how long, a thin layer of snow settling on his shoulders. When he saw me, he quickly put out his cigarette and forced a smile. "Mildred, why didn't you tell me you were performing with the orchestra? Mom and Dad have been asking about you too. When are you coming home?" I stared at him expressionlessly until he began to fidget uncomfortably. Only then did I speak. "Did you forget we have nothing to do with each other anymore?" He sighed, a sadness in his eyes that I couldn't quite understand. "Mildred, you're the only woman I'll ever marry. We're supposed to have a happy home together." Maybe he was starting to miss what we had now that the thrill of Sarah had worn off. Or maybe he truly didn't want to let go of the 9 years we had spent together. But none of that mattered anymore. "You and Sarah's couple reality show isn't even finished yet, Mark. A cheater doesn't deserve a family." I let out a quiet scoff, completely unmoved. Behind me, Owen's voice rang out. "Today's afternoon tea is chestnut cake. Don't waste your time on people who don't matter." I didn't spare Mark another glance as I turned and walked inside. Coincidentally, the final stop of their reality show's filming was in this country. The orchestra's manager hesitated before approaching me. "Mildred, the production team reached out. They want to record at the performance venue." I paused for a moment, then said indifferently, "As long as they don't interfere with us, I don't care." Sarah wasn't happy with how Mark had reacted to my departure. She was the one who insisted on attending the orchestra performance this time. Before I went on stage, she cornered me in the dressing room. "You already left. Stop clinging to Mark." I gave her a strange look. "Are you still waiting for him to propose?" Her face flushed with anger, her eyes burning with fury. "If you hadn't come back, I would have been the one marrying Mark." In Sarah's selfish mind, my parents, my life, everything that belonged to me should have been hers. The day I left for my studies, she had stood at the airport and said meaningfully, "You shouldn't be leaving." Thinking back now, she had probably planned everything from the start. Whether it was calculated seduction or genuine affection, in the end, Mark had still ended up in her bed. I brushed past her coldly. Sarah crossed her arms, a mocking smirk on her lips. "Keep pretending you don't care. I'll be waiting to see if you regret it." The performance went smoothly, and, as expected, I closed the show with my cello solo. The audience's reviews were overwhelmingly positive, but online, a smear campaign against me was gaining traction. A notoriously harsh music critic reviewed my performance. "No soul, dull and lifeless. She doesn't deserve to play the cello. Her posture is completely wrong. Just another overhyped internet celebrity." People who knew nothing about cello took his words as gospel. And conveniently, someone exposed my past with Mark, accusing me of seducing Sarah's boyfriend. Photos surfaced of me linking arms with Mark, smiling up at him, us shopping for groceries and wandering through malls together. Then Sarah, playing the victim, posted on Instagram, "Don't blame Mark. Some people are just desperate to seduce him. He only loves me." Her fans erupted, calling me shameless. Owen looked at me worriedly and pointed at his phone screen. "You should stay off social media for now." Sarah really was both stupid and vicious. She thought that branding me as a homewrecker would make Mark give up on reconciliation and ruin my career in the process. But before I even had a chance to defend myself, someone else did. A fan found an old photo of me with my mentor, the world-renowned cellist Nathan. Curious, they left a comment on his profile. "Why is a publicity-hungry internet star taking pictures with a master like you?" Nathan, confused, replied, "Mildred was John's favorite student. Who's this publicity-hungry internet star you're talking about?" Then, Mark's company issued an official statement. "Miss Mildred has always been our CEO's fiancé." Sarah's Instagram burner account was also exposed, along with my old posts from 9 years ago, memories I had long buried. "Saw the fireworks with Mark tonight. So beautiful. Composed a cello piece as a birthday gift for Mark. He promised to attend all my performances. Sarah broke the bracelet Mark gave me, so upset. Studying abroad feels so slow. I can't wait to go home and see Mark. Mark waited in the snow for hours just to see me for 5 minutes. And finally, the last post I ever made after returning home. Everything has changed. Sarah's every Instagram post was a provocation. There were pictures of Mark sleeping, carefully chosen gifts, and photos of them holding hands. The daggers she threw came back like a boomerang, stabbing into her own heart. In a city, Mark confronted her with anger, demanding to know her intentions. Her nose was red, her eyes brimming with tears as she spoke with grievance. "I just love you too much." But Mark yanked his hand away, his face full of disgust. "You were the one who said you didn't care about a title, that you wouldn't cause trouble in front of Mildred. Weren't you the one who posted all those provocative pictures and captions on Instagram? You even made sure to tag Mildred in every single one." Tears rolled down Sarah's face, making her look heartbreakingly pitiful. "She already broke up with you. I just wanted to teach her a lesson on your behalf." Mark sneered coldly. "You wanted to marry me and completely destroy Mildred's career. What a clever scheme." His fists clenched, veins bulging on the back of his hands. Trembling, he dialed my number, but I had already blocked him long ago. He spoke of missing me while entangling himself in Sarah's bed. He found our 9-year relationship dull and uninspired, seeking excitement with my adopted sister. One incident after another, each one widening the cracks that eventually led us down different paths. Mildred, in the end, I still lost you. I no longer paid attention to the chaos back home. Sometimes Mark would sit in the audience at the orchestra's performances, but I never once spared him a glance. On the day of my solo cello recital, Owen was more nervous than I was. Trying to act calm, he encouraged me. "Mildred, don't be afraid. After the performance, I'll take you to see fireflies." It was a clumsy attempt to ease my nerves. I looked at him with a smile. "With you by my side, I'm not afraid of anything." He was momentarily stunned, then pleasantly surprised as he looked up at me. The performance ended successfully. During the acknowledgments, I thanked my teacher Nathan, every member of the orchestra, and Owen, who'd always been waiting for me from the audience. Mark furrowed his brows, pressing his lips together, visibly unsettled. As I was leaving the theater, Mark stood in my path, holding a bouquet of roses. "Mildred, I know I was wrong. Sarah has been disgraced. My parents gave her a sum of money and drove her out of the family. Mildred, our 9 years together weren't just a number. I was blinded by the thrill of something new, but I'll never make that mistake again." I took a few steps back, covering my nose. Looking up, I met his gaze, shaking my head with indifference. "You forgot once again that I'm allergic to roses, Mark. You still think I'm just throwing a tantrum. One moment you were massaging my stomach because of my cramps, the next you left at the sound of Sarah's call. The first photo Sarah sent me was of you lying on her lap, your fingers twirling through her hair. Whenever I see you, all I can think of are those disgusting images. To me, you're nothing more than a repulsive stranger." Mark trembled slightly at my words. He crouched down, covering his face, silently weeping. I remained distant, lowering my gaze as I walked past him, straight into Owen's open arms. From that day on, I never saw Mark again. Owen and I got married when spring was in full bloom. We held our wedding on an island, just as I had always dreamed. What I hadn't expected, however, were the unexpected guests. I had no idea how they found out about the wedding. My parents and Mark stood hesitantly at the chapel entrance. My father looked as if he had aged 10 years, his back no longer straight. My mother had lost her former elegance, fine lines forming at the corners of her eyes. Owen stole a cautious glance at my expression. He wrapped his arm around my shoulders. "Do you want me to have someone escort them out?" I shook my head. "It's fine, they don't matter. Just make sure security keeps an eye on them so they don't cause trouble." Owen tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear, his voice gentle. "Then let them see your happiness with their own eyes." When we exchanged rings and Owen's lips met mine, I heard a barely audible sob as my parents left. They looked back at me with every step, but I never called out to them despite the longing in their eyes. Before leaving, Mark handed me an exquisitely wrapped gift box. Mildred, I originally planned to give this to you on our wedding day. It's what you once said you wanted. I let out a soft chuckle, cutting him off. Don't come back again. I'll only find you pathetic. Without hesitation, I tossed the gift box into a nearby trash bin. Then, I took Owen's arm and walked away. The cello piece I played at 18 for the boy I loved had now faded into nothingness. Later, Sarah squandered all the money her family had given her. Mark had someone lure her into gambling, causing her to fall deep into debt. When Sarah discovered that the mastermind behind her downfall was Mark, she waited outside his villa for days. After being driven away by security, she harbored a deep grudge. Hiding near Mark's company, she waited. When he left work late one night, unaware of the looming danger, she drove straight into him, dragging him for dozens of meters. The once brilliant young CEO lost both his legs. His company stocks were rapidly acquired after the corporation changed hands. Mark vanished from the public eye. To me, all of the past had long faded like a dream, and the final stop of our orchestra tour was in a country. My son accompanied Owen to pick me up. His big, round eyes were fixed on something in the distance. I followed his gaze, but saw nothing. It wasn't until we got in the car that he spoke in a soft voice. "Mommy, there was a strange uncle in a wheelchair over there. He looked like he was crying when he saw you." I paused for a moment, running my fingers through his soft hair, pressing a gentle kiss to his furrowed little brow. I smiled. Just a stranger. No need to pay him any mind.